Let me introduce Senator Dick Durbin.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's a great honor to be here at UIS. I have a deep, warm, long attachment with UIS, formerly SSU, and happy to be back here today. But I'm sorry to be here under these circumstances. Last month, we reached an agreement out in Washington. You know, they say Washington's so dysfunctional and it's so partisan and they can't get anything right. Well, we do once in a while, and we did when it came to the budget. We got a 2-year budget in Washington. It was a bipartisan budget. Democrats and Republicans, both sides had to give. And when it came to education, we were able to increase the Pell Grant, which is important for students from low-income families struggling to go to school. We were able to make it a year-round Pell Grant. We also have reauthorized the TRIO program, an important program for many young people to transition into higher education, and we reauthorized the Perkins Loan Program, which helps some 30,000 students in the state of Illinois. So I'm glad to say that we've done our part. But look at what's happening in our state. We have reached the breaking point when it comes to this budget impasse. When I think of all of the innocent groups that have been victimized by the failure to have a budget in this state, it is just unacceptable. Daycare, working mothers around our state want to leave their kids, like some of these beautiful young kids in the room here, in the hands of a safe, healthy, positive environment. Cutbacks in daycare for working mothers. If you happen to have someone in your family who is mentally challenged, mentally disabled, cutbacks in those programs. What are those folks supposed to do? Honest to goodness. When it comes to some basics, prosecutors in counties all across our state can turn to redeploy Illinois so they can avoid sending young people to prison, juvenile prisons that cost $100,000 a year per inmate, per juvenile inmate. Instead, redeploy Illinois $5,000, a community program that works and has now been discontinued in 38 counties because of this budget impasse. And what brings us together here today is the breaking point when it comes to higher education in Illinois. We have reached the point now where schools across this state are seriously considering whether they can go forward, seriously considering whether they can open the door. And students and their families who need a helping hand from a MAP grant, a couple $1,000s maybe, just to enroll and be a college student, are stepping away and saying, guess we're just going to have to drop out for the time being and see what happens. That is a sad commentary on this great state. It embarrasses me. It troubles me to think that we've reached a point that there are so many innocent victims across this state. You know, politicians read Profiles in Courage and hope someday they'll show courage when it comes to leadership. It takes no courage to fail to put together a budget and watch innocent people suffer across our state. That doesn't take courage. We need leadership. I understand this Wednesday the governor's going to give his budget message. When he is in the Capitol, he'll be there with the leaders of the House and the Senate. I would propose that Jesse White lock the doors and tell him to stay until you get your job done. Enough is enough. And now we have to realize that if we jeopardize higher education for these students, we could pay a price for a long, long time to come. I wouldn't be standing here today if it weren't for a college education. Mom and Dad had 8th grade educations, but they knew it was the right thing for me to do. And here I am with an opportunity to serve this state. Well, first let me say, when you're choosing airlines, always pick Air Force One. No matter where they're flying. And it was an honor to fly with the president and to sit and talk with him for a number of times on the plane. And we did talk about what's going on in Illinois. And he knows full well, as he came into the General Assembly, the budget mess that we face. And he feels, as I do, that this is unfair to people of this state, that this great state has taken a beating in terms of its reputation because of the inability and unwillingness of the leaders to reach an agreement. He has one daughter headed for college and another in high school, and they're going through the pains of emptying the nest, what many of us have been through. But he sure knows it well, and he brought it up to the governor. When they were standing on the tarmac there as the plane landed, and they were talking about a number of things, and he stressed how important it was that we have that we go forward in the state, and that the governor lead and try to find a way to break this budget impasse.
Second part of the question can be reached down to you and colleagues in Washington.
I've been around government for a while, and I've noticed something. If you don't have any money to offer, they're not that interested in you. And at this point, there's no federal rescue on the way. And so I express my feelings as certainly as a person representing the state in Washington, and as a lifelong resident of Illinois. I'm heartbroken at what's happened to our state. This is a great state, great people, great businesses, great leaders, great volunteers, you name it. And look at what we're going through. We've never faced this before, never. And the sooner it comes to an end, the better. And for where to point the finger of blame, I have my own theories, for sure, which maybe I've already shared with you a little bit. But I suggested locking all the doors in the Capitol. Keep them all in there. Don't let any of them leave until they reach an agreement.
Senator, this is what's going on.
Well, higher education is a competitive business. And if you want to attract students, then you have to realize you're in competition. Some of the competition, I think, is out of the question unfair from the for-profit colleges and universities. But within the public universities and the not-for-profit and the private universities, there are options and competition. Think about this. If we in Illinois say to students like Jamie here, when it comes to MAP grants, we can't help you. Well, she's forced to look around, maybe even delay her education while she looks around. So it's not fair to them. It's sure not fair to the school, which is ready to offer an affordable, quality education, to have to deal with these budget problems, not of their own creation.
Mr. Senator Durbin, question.
Oh, there you are.
The deadline is approaching fastly for that math program. Say the budget doesn't pass, or they don't pass the budget coming up. What happens?
Well, I think Chancellor Cook and others can answer that better than I can. But I can tell you, in the city of Chicago, when I go to certain parts of that city, Chicago State University's plight, everybody knows. There is a very serious concern that this major university and thousands of students won't be served at all, won't be able to continue their education. It's tough enough to go to school. Do you remember when you did? I assume you did. It's tough enough, to go to classes and make sure you have a place to rent and keep the gas in the car and all the rest of it. And now they pull the rug out from under these students and say, sorry, we got a political problem in Springfield. We'll get back to you later. That's just not fair. It's not fair at Chicago State. It's not fair at UIS. I've been at this for a while as a member of the House and the Senate. When our state competes for federal grants, the first question asked, do you have state and local support? Are you going to put some money on the table? Whether you're talking about building a new runway at an airport or attracting money for railroad relocation, you pick it. Or if it's something to deal with education. And the honest answer is, I can't go forward now and represent that our state is willing to participate and make a commitment on a state basis because of this budget crisis. And it's played out, unfortunately, to slow down, at least at this point, slow down, if not stop, economic development efforts. We are just not in the game in many respects in Washington until we have a stable state government that is funding the basics, which include education to start with, safety net for the poor and helpless, education for middle-income families. If we're not doing those things, it hurts. And there have been things that have happened. When the city of Chicago looks for a bond issue to help keep their schools open, they get into a tangle with local politics, and Wall Street pushes them away. They had to return the following week and pay a much higher interest rate because of the local political fight. So it isn't just Washington. It's the financial community around the country that's taking a look at our state, and they're disappointed. I am too. We spent some time together, walked through the Senate chamber, showed me his old desk, had a lot of good memories. I know he was looking forward to this trip.
On Scalia's death, what's your thoughts about President Obama being able to appoint a Supreme Court justice?
Let me say at the outset that Justice Scalia was a person I came to know. He was a very bright person, very funny, very social, We disagreed on a lot of things. He gave more than 3 decades of his life in public service, left a real mark on the court, and my thoughts and prayers go out to his family. I can't understand the Republican approach to this. They have said to President Obama, we don't care who you nominate. We're not going to approve it. They don't even want to wait to see the president's nominee. Now that's just wrong. Obama was elected for 4 years. He has 11 months or so left in this term. There's more than enough time for him to prepare a nominee, submit it to the Senate, go through the orderly process, and take a vote. And that's all he's asking for. And this notion that they're rejecting the idea that he would want to be president for the remaining 11 months of his term, in my mind, is an indication of just how bad things are in the Republican-controlled Congress.
More specifics on what he could or should do, what kind of nominee he should make?
Well, of course, he should look for a person of quality who the people would view as worthy of the highest court of the land. I think he's done that twice now with Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan. I don't have a name to give him. It's been an interesting debate or speculation among members of the Senate about, oh, what if he named so-and-so? Wouldn't that really be the right person? Let the president make this choice. But for goodness sakes, for Mitch McConnell to announce immediately, I don't care who he sends, we're not going to approve him. I mean, does that strike anyone as reasonable? That is totally political. If he sends a nominee and the Republicans want to vote no, so be it. I mean, they control. They have 54 votes. But to reject the president's authority under this is just wrong.
Are Democrats going to, are you going to blow things up if they try to do this? Or where do you know what I mean?
Let me tell you, blowing things up in the Senate means slowing things down, and when you're proceeding at a crawl, the next gear is stop. We need to pass the budget bills, get them done this year, but our ambitions beyond that are extremely limited. And that is really the agenda of the Republican leadership. They don't want to get engaged in controversial issues because they have some senators, and we know a few, who are up for re-election and don't want to take tough votes.
What about that Senator Kirk here in Illinois? I mean, I didn't see a statement from him on the passing of Justice Scalia. Do you have any?
You ought to ask him.
President Obama on the Clean Power Act. What's your thoughts about the Supreme Court decision on?
I'm disappointed because I believe the president does have the authority. Now, they've just stayed it until they can rule on the merits, and Scalia's death may even have an impact on that. But here's the reality. We live in a changing world with climate change and global warming. If we want to leave a world to our kids that they can live in, we have to do something, accept responsibility in this generation. And this notion of rejecting basic science on this issue, or saying, even if I accept science, we shouldn't have to make any sacrifices. Come on. We have a responsibility to our kids and grandkids to do the right thing.
Senator, the strategy of the Republicans of not approving a nominee flat out, I mean, that aside, what would they have to gain from a year or more of 4-4 votes?
Well, you never know. If you have a circuit court decision that they like, and the Supreme Court is tied and can't decide it or won't take it up, that circuit court decision stays the law in that circuit, at least arguably the law. But it is not a national decision. It doesn't affect everyone. So it's going to be a patchwork quilt here if the Supreme Court can't have a full complement of 9 justices.
Do you think we should find a justice before the recess period before February 22nd?
No. The president said he wants to do it properly, and I'm sure he has his own ideas, and he'll make a suggestion to us when we return on the 22nd.
So after an election, possibly?
No, it would be after February 22nd, sometime after that.
Senator, when President Obama came into office in 2008, you had Republicans saying, we're going to do anything we can to stop him. Do you see any parallel whatsoever between that and what has gone on in Illinois with Governor Rauner? He's got his agenda. He's dug in ideologically with against Democrats versus him. Any parallels at all?
Well, the parallel I see is this. Let me just speak to the state for a moment. If they said to me, Durbin, next week, we want you to go to Wall Street and save a major failing bankrupt corporation, I'd say to them, what do I know about that? I don't have any expertise in either. The governor's come in facing a major financial crisis in one of the largest states of the union. And he comes in with a strong business background, but no experience dealing with politics and the realities of government. And he's taken some positions which I don't believe are helpful. To have your starting point as an obsession with labor unions, it isn't even popular among Republicans, let alone Democrats. And then you're sitting across the table from two leaders, and so you do what you can to insult them, run against them, prepare super PACs to take them out. How does that create a conducive atmosphere for negotiating? I don't think it does, either in business or in government. So I really do hope that this week the three leaders will come to their senses, stay in the building, and come up with a budget.